I was adopted at 6 and thought I finally had a real family. But at 18, I found a hidden letter from my birth mom that revealed my foster parents lied, knew my real brother all along, and kept us apart just to keep the money coming in. I was 6 years old when I was adopted. My earliest memories before that are patchy flashes of cold hospital lights, the smell of canned food, strangers coming and going. My birth mom, they told me, had passed away in a car accident and no relatives were left. I didn't question it. At 6, you believe what adults say, especially when they hold your hand and offer you warm meals. When James and Deborah Winters adopted me, it felt like a dream. They were the kind of people you'd see on a Hallmark card, suburban home, backyard with a swing set, homemade cookies on the counter. Deborah had the kind of smile that made you feel safe. James would call me champ and ruffle my hair like I was his own son. For the first time, I had a real bedroom, a real birthday party, and a real school where I stayed more than a week. My social worker said I was lucky, so lucky to have found a forever home. I believed her. For 12 years, I believed her. Deborah kept everything in perfect order. Our lives were neat, predictable. Every morning she made me eggs just the way I liked them. Every night, she checked my homework. James worked in finance and came home just in time for dinner, usually with a tired smile and some small gift, a baseball, a model car, a paperback book. But there were small cracks in the picture perfect frame. I wasn't allowed to ask questions about my past. It's too traumatic, Deborah would say gently. What matters is that you're safe now. Loved. James would change the subject if I ever mentioned the foster system or my birth family. Let's not dwell, buddy, he'd say, steering me toward his newest hobby, gardening, grilling, fishing. So I stopped asking. The older I got, the more I noticed that other kids talked about their families differently. They had baby albums, old home videos, family inside jokes. I had none of that. Everything in my life before age 6 was a blank canvas, and James and Deborah made sure it stayed that way. Sometimes, I'd get this strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I'd look around and catch Deborah looking out the window nervously, or James lingering outside when I walked to school, even when I was a teenager. Once, I found a stack of old mail addressed to someone named Samuel. When I asked about it, Deborah's face went pale. That was the old owner, she said too quickly. He left a mess behind. We just never threw it out. It didn't add up. But I kept quiet, because they were all I had. Until my 18th birthday. Turning 18 felt monumental, not because I was now an adult, but because I was finally allowed in the attic. That might sound weird, but James had always kept it locked. There's nothing up there but insulation and old junk, he'd say. Dangerous nails and dust. No place for a kid. But that day, when I came home from school, the attic door was open. James was out, and Deborah was baking a cake downstairs. I don't know what came over me. I just climbed the stairs, one by one, heart pounding like I was doing something forbidden. Dust coated everything. Cardboard boxes, broken furniture, old coats draped over a suitcase. I was about to leave when I saw something sticking out from a photo album. It was a faded blue envelope. My name, my birth name, was written on the front. Caleb. My hands trembled. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Slanted, rushed penmanship. Tear stains. And as I read, my world unraveled. My sweet Caleb, I hope one day you find this. I don't know if they'll ever let you see me again or if they've already lied to you. But I need you to know the truth. I didn't abandon you. They took you. They told me I wasn't fit to raise you, but it wasn't true. I was struggling, yes, but I never gave up. They said they'd place you temporarily, just until I could get clean, get stable. I did, but they never brought you back. They said you were adopted by a good family. I begged to know who. They wouldn't tell me. But the worst part? They separated you from your brother. You have a brother, Caleb. His name is Jacob. You were in foster care together for almost a year before they split you up. The Winters, James and Deborah, they knew. They had the paperwork. But they didn't want two boys. Just one. Just you. Because with one, the checks were simpler. I tried to find you. I tried everything. But every door was closed. I hope you find this one. Love always. Mom. I dropped the letter. The floor beneath me felt like it disappeared. A brother? A real, living brother? And they knew? They lied for 12 years? To keep the checks coming? I stumbled down the stairs, letter in hand. Deborah looked up from frosting the cake. Where did you get that? She asked, voice cold, face drained of color. In the attic, I said, voice shaking. You lied to me. You knew. She said nothing, just turned away and walked into the living room like I hadn't spoken. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up reading the letter over and over, comparing the handwriting to other notes I'd found in storage bins, none matched. This wasn't one of Deborah's manipulations. This was real. This was my mother. The next morning, I confronted James before he left for work. Who's Jacob? I asked bluntly. He froze. Where did you hear that name? I found the letter. You knew. You both knew I had a brother and kept it from me. He sighed, slowly setting down his briefcase. It's not as simple as you think. Yes, it is, I snapped. You adopted me. You kept me. You got checks for it. And you made sure I never found him. Why? Was I just a paycheck to you? James ran a hand through his hair. For the first time, he looked tired. Not work tired. Soul tired. We did what we thought was best. Deborah didn't want two boys. She said we'd bond better with one. We couldn't afford to, not with how things were then. But you could afford vacations, new furniture, that Tesla you drive. His silence was louder than any answer. That's when I knew. It wasn't just about love, it was business. I had been a foster check my whole life, a transaction. The worst part? They could have told me. They could have let me find Jacob. Maybe we could have written letters. Maybe seen each other on holidays. But instead, they locked away that part of my life like it was garbage. I left that day, packed a bag, took the letter, and walked out. Deborah tried to stop me, called my name from the porch, crying now. You're our son, she screamed. We raised you. But I didn't look back. Because I needed to find the one person they tried to erase from my life completely. I didn't have a plan. No money, no idea where to start. Just a name, Jacob, and the words of a broken-hearted mother who tried her best to reach me from whatever shadows they had thrown her into. The first night, I stayed at my friend Kyle's place. I told him everything about the adoption, the letter, the brother. He didn't say much, just let me crash on the couch and handed me a Mountain Dew and a granola bar like it was the end of the world. The next morning, I walked into the county child welfare office, the same one that handled my adoption years ago. It hadn't changed. Same sad gray walls, same flickering lights, same long line of people who looked like they were waiting for answers no one wanted to give. I waited 3 hours to talk to a social worker. I'm looking for my brother, I said, placing the letter on the desk between us like a sacred offering. His name is Jacob. We were in foster care together, then separated. I was adopted by the Winters. They lied to me. I want to know where he is. The woman, Ms. Levin, her tag red, looked at me with tired eyes. I'm sorry, but we can't release information about former wards without a court order. It's privacy law. I felt the burn rise in my chest. I'm not asking for somebody else. I'm asking for my own family. I have a right to know. She looked at the letter, her expression softening. This, this might help. But you'll still need to petition the court. How long will that take? A few weeks, if you're lucky. Weeks? I'd waited 12 years. I couldn't wait anymore. But then she said something that changed everything. If Jacob aged out of the system, he may have filed for post-placement services. There's a chance he left some kind of contact info behind, an email, a phone number, maybe even a mailing address. But I'm not supposed to access it unless he gave permission. I looked her in the eye and whispered, Please. He's my brother. I need to know. She hesitated, then quietly typed something into her system. After a pause, she nodded slightly. He's in Atlanta. He applied for job assistance last year, left a Gmail address. That's all I can give you. It wasn't much, but it was everything. I wrote the email 3 times before sending it. I didn't know what to say. Hey, I think you're my brother. Our adoptive parents separated us and lied about everything. Want to talk? It sounded like something from a bad Netflix movie. But finally, I sent it. The wait was unbearable. I refreshed the inbox every 5 minutes. Hours passed. Then a day. Then two. No reply. On the third night, I was about to give up when I heard the ping. From jacobm93@gmail.com. Subject: Are you really Caleb? My heart nearly stopped. I don't know who you are, but I've waited my whole life to hear your name again. I thought you were gone. Please tell me this is real. Please tell me you're him. Tears filled my eyes as I typed back. I am. I found Mom's letter. I've been looking for you. His response came seconds later. Give me your number. I'm calling. The phone rang before I even finished typing. Caleb? His voice cracked. Jacob? And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. We talked for 3 hours that night. He told me everything: how we'd been placed together in our first foster home when we were toddlers, how we clung to each other at night, scared of the dark, holding hands in silence because we didn't understand the words yet, and how one day I was just gone. I cried for days, he said. They said you got adopted, that it was a good thing, but I knew it wasn't right. I never stopped thinking about you. He bounced through 6 homes after I left. None permanent, none loving. He aged out of the system at 18 and had been surviving ever since, working at a warehouse, sleeping in his car some nights, never knowing if he'd see his brother again. They told me our mom gave up on us, he whispered. I believed it. But now, we both went quiet. The pain was too big for words. Then he said, Come to Atlanta, please. And I knew I would. I bought a one-way bus ticket with the last of my savings and packed my bag. Kyle gave me a hug at the terminal and said, Go find your family, man. I rode overnight, my head against the window, watching the world blur past. I thought of the birthday parties Deborah threw for me, the baseball games James took me to, and how it all felt fake now. Like props in a play, meant to keep me quiet, keep me blind. But I also thought about Jacob, about 2 little boys who held hands in the dark, who were torn apart by greed and silence, and about how nothing, not years, not lies, not pain, could stop us from finding our way back. When I stepped off the bus in Atlanta, I saw him right away. He looked just like me, but older, stronger, worn down by life. His eyes were the same, brown with a ring of hazel. We stared at each other for a second, frozen in disbelief. Then we hugged, and it felt like coming home. Living with Jacob felt like rewinding a life I never got to live. We were strangers at first, brothers by blood, but cautious, careful, afraid to say the wrong thing. He lived in a small studio apartment above a laundromat. It wasn't much, peeling paint, leaky sink, but it was real. It was his. And now, for a little while, it was mine too. We stayed up every night talking, filling in the missing years, comparing scars, some physical, most invisible. He told me how he spent birthdays alone, wondering if I was still out there. How he hated Mother's Day, always wondering if our mom ever thought of us. I told him how I felt trapped in a picture-perfect home, always told not to ask questions, punished with silence instead of slaps. We were raised in 2 different worlds, one empty and broken, one comfortable but built on lies. And somehow, both of us had been robbed. But at least we had each other now. One night, a week after I moved in, I brought up the big question, the one neither of us had dared to say out loud. Do you think she's still alive? Jacob didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, I don't know, but I think we have to try to find out. We went back to that letter. The return address on the envelope had been scribbled out with thick black ink, but there were still faint impressions underneath. We held it up to the light, rubbed it gently with pencil, and finally made out a few digits, a zip code in Savannah, Georgia. It wasn't much, but it was something. We called shelters, clinics, addiction centers. We told them we were looking for a woman named Angela Morris, age late 30s to early 40s, possibly with a history of addiction or homelessness. Most hung up a few promised to check records. Days passed. Then one day, a voice called back. This is Sister Helen from St. Martha's Outreach in Savannah. You called about Angela Morris? My heart leapt. Yes, she's our mom. Do you know her? A pause. I can't give out much over the phone, but I do know her. She was here last year. She stayed with us for a few months. She talked about her boys every night. She carried around a drawing one of you made when you were little. She said she was going to find you, no matter what it took. Tears filled my eyes. Do you know where she is now? She left in the spring, but she mentioned trying to get a job at a diner off Route 17. Said she wanted to be somewhere steady in case her boys ever came looking. That was all we needed. We drove to Savannah the next morning. 3 hours into the trip, Jacob looked over at me and said, You think she'll recognize us? I laughed softly. We've changed a lot. Yeah, he said. But she'll know. Moms always know. We stopped at every diner we passed. Showed her photo to anyone who'd listen. Most shook their heads. A few thought maybe, possibly, they'd seen her. Then finally, at a place called Cindy's Country Kitchen, the waitress behind the counter gasped. You're Angela's boys? My heart stopped. She's here? She nodded slowly. She's in the back. Just finished her shift. We followed her through the swinging kitchen doors. And there she was, cleaning a tray, hair tied back, face older than I remembered in dreams, eyes tired but unmistakable. My mother. She turned when she heard the door. Her eyes landed on us. And for a moment, the world went still. Caleb? She whispered. Jacob? We nodded. And she dropped the tray and ran to us, wrapping us in her arms like she'd been waiting a lifetime. I thought I lost you, she sobbed. They told me you were gone, that I'd never see you again. We found your letter, I whispered. We found each other. We stood there, the three of us, crying in a greasy diner kitchen, the past crashing down around us and finally letting us breathe. In the weeks that followed, we rebuilt what they tried to break. Angela moved in with us. She was clean, strong, full of stories she'd been saving for years. She told us about her childhood, how I used to hum myself to sleep, how Jacob used to make her laugh by pretending to be a dinosaur, how she loved us more than anything, even when the system told her she wasn't good enough. We confronted the winters. I didn't go alone. Jacob came with me. Angela waited in the car. When they opened the door, they looked shocked. Deborah's eyes went wide. James just stared. You lied, I said simply. You had no right. Deborah's lip trembled. We gave you a good life. No, you gave yourselves a good life. With my checks, with my silence. They didn't argue. Because what could they say? I left the letter on their table. And I never looked back. Now, months later, I've started college. Jacob's got a new job. Angela volunteers at a shelter, helping other women find their kids. We live together in a rented house with peeling paint and secondhand furniture. But it's full of truth, of love, of memories being made, not stolen. Some nights, I still wake up afraid it was all a dream. But then I hear Jacob snoring in the next room, or Angela humming in the kitchen, and I know we're real. We were torn apart for money, but in the end, we found something priceless. Each other.